Hello everybody, my name is Sir Elite the Ugly, and today I'll be showing you some of the basics of the Soviet Union in Hearts of Iron 4. Now one thing I'll immediately say is this is not meta gameplay. This is essentially some of the basics that I believe it'd be good to share with some new players in order to help them flow a little bit easier when learning this very complicated game, especially for the Soviet Union. Another thing too I will say is I do apologize over my mic quality. This is the best I could do with it, so I do apologize. So if you're able to tolerate this, hopefully my information I'll be sharing will be rather helpful. So what is the overall goal of playing the Soviet Union in Hearts of Iron 4? Expand your gulags. And I guess watching people die in the Soviet front? I don't know. But anyways, I'll be showing you the national focus tree now. So, first of all, please do not feel overwhelmed when you see how large this focus tree is. I know it's rather extensive and there's a lot to read, but I do promise that the more you go down the Stalin route, for instance, this focus tree will shrink. Like for example, when you click Stalin in the Soviet route here, the Tsar route and some of these others like Trotsky and the right opposition will disappear off the focus tree just so your eyes don't bleed seeing a bunch of invalid focuses because you did go down those routes. But besides that, it's a lot easier and cleaner to look at. We're going to go right, actually no, we're going to go left to right, and I'll be showing you some of the focuses in the most simple manner I can. Alright, so first of all, you have industry. I highly recommend going down this route throughout the game. You could do anything, by the way, just remember. I mean, it just depends on how you play and how you expand your play style. You could have a lot of planes, or you could go down the military route, I mean, or just straight out industry. I mean, it just completely depends on how you want to play. But for the industry route, it gives you a lot of factories. I highly do recommend going down this route, some research bonuses, and one thing that you do need to focus on. You get an extra research slot here. I highly recommend going for this. Next, we have the air national focus tree. It starts with transporter flights, which actually is really helpful if you do it at the beginning of the game, because you'll be able to immediately upgrade your planes. If you wanted to combat the Germans in the Spanish Civil War, which if you didn't know, you will be combating, if you wanted to help Republicans and get some XP along the way, you'll most likely be fighting the German Air Force if you send planes, and I believe that's one of the DLCs, which is kind of dumb, but it's whatever. But you'll be combating them and the Germans, and I'll explain a little bit later, but essentially the Germans will have superior planes to you, and this could be a pretty helpful focus, and it's only 35 days as well. You can grab the Air XP and help out with your planes. Going down the focus tree, get some more military factories and designer costs, and alongside, you do negate some of the debuffs you start with the game if you do go down this. And like I said, you can do anything. I mean, it's all up to you how you want to play. That's the fun part of this game. I really do love that. If you go down here, increase aircraft production, you get 100% research bonus for light aircraft. That means the next 2 light aircraft, which I shall show you here, excuse me, sorry, you have 100% on this one, and another one on Fighter 3s. It is a very, very nice focus to grab. Oops, wrong place. And you also are able to produce planes a lot cheaper as well. That 5%, trust me, that actually matters, I'll tell you that. And of course, there's other things here too. Next, you also have the Red Fleet. In my recommendation, I won't even bother, looking at this, at all. For the Soviet Union, as you can see, it's got a lot of land, and it's got a lot of borders, especially with Germany and maybe Japan. You'll be fighting there. For fleets, I mean, you do have a big fleet. It can be helpful with supplies and stuff like that, but to be honest, you should really just be focusing elsewhere. I mean, it helps you with naval bases, any air. And I could be wrong with this. Somebody can say this in the comments, but I do believe, yes, you get radars as well. If you do have it, radars will be placed down there as well. It does have its benefits, but I honestly would just not recommend going down this route. Yeah. Next, we have land. So here's the thing. This is a more important focus tree to go down alongside the Purge, because your army starts out in a very, very unstable place. You have the Red Army and also politicized military and a few other things with Stalin along the way. Let me turn this down real quick. I have a music pack. It's quite enjoyable. All these different nations. Anyways, so there's 2 sections here. The right side will help you negate those debuffs. So along the purge, I mean, your army is just not going to be good at all. Everybody's getting purged. And the way, for those who do not know, the way to eliminate those debuffs and to reform the army in general, not everything, but this just basically just sets it in a right direction, is lessons of war. Excuse me, lessons of war. This is how you get rid of a lot of that really, really bad stuff. But here's the problem. So you may be thinking, it's like, hey, it's just 3 focuses away. Why can't I just bum rush it? Especially since it's 35-day focus trees. Well, here's the thing. For desperate measures, the only way you can do this is, as you can see here, you have to be at war with a major country. So that is like Germany or Italy, maybe Britain, Japan, not like Estonia or something like that. Like you actually have to fight an actual nation. So basically you're not allowed to click this one at all until, I would say, Germany attacks you. And then you have to wait quite some time for this one. I believe you have to wait a little bit, maybe like a year or something like that. And then you're able to click Lessons of War. But you are able to click other ones, and they do help you, trust me. Like this one, for instance, you are able to click, like right now, basically after you get down. This one helps with organization. And for those that don't know too much about organization, when you look at a unit, I'll show you real quick, this green bar, so there's 2 bars. The orange, which is how many guns you actually have in your division, that affects your strength. Oh wow, that's great. That's awful. And you also have green, which is the overall health. Organization, from my knowledge, is your health. The higher it is, the more health that you're able to lose in a battle until it retreats. So for a focus like that, yeah, it's pretty nice. Just some examples. You can go down. There's also this section here, which is actually really nice. It helps with economics, with production capabilities. And this one right here, Leningrad. This gives you another research slot that I would recommend going for. But you do have to grab this focus and I believe the means to wage war before you're allowed to grab it. There's also another focus here, which a lot of people don't look at. This is actually really nice here as well. But the development of Tankograd, essentially what this is, if you read here, as 1 building slot in 1 military factory in every state in the Urals or in the Far East with at least 3 military factories, maximum 10. So basically what that means is from this mountain range east, all this, for every state until a maximum of 10, different states, have 3 military factories in them. Let's see here, maybe. When you do this focus, you will get an extra military factory for free for how many you had, maximum 10, of course. So if you had 10 states here with 3 military factories, it would immediately add, when you finish this, an extra military factory on there. So you do get to cut corners and build up your industry. This stuff here is really helpful as well. As you can see there, that's pretty big. You actually buff your artillery. And last but not least, this will give you decisions to buff even more stuff. I've seen a lot of people like basically ignore this or forget about it, but this is actually really nice. Now I keep saying everything's really nice, but just remember there's a lot of focuses here, so like you really have to pick and choose throughout the game. And that's where you're able to form your playstyle. There's just too many to choose before the war. You have to focus on things or just kind of click on whatever you want. Then there's this side, which is the purge. This is essential for you to go down if you choose Stalin. This is the historical route. So basically, for your purge to end, you have to get to this focus down here, the block of rights and Trotskyists. This is how you end the purge. And then you can also grab Stalin's cult of personality and get some buffs down here. But this takes quite some time to take because as you can see there, it says has completed less recently than 175 days ago for the previous focus. This one right here, you have to complete this one. You can kind of see it keeps saying you have to wait almost 200 days. So you do have to wait for some of these when you grab them. So you do have to soak in that purge a little bit longer. And also do not forget Behead the Snake. What this essentially does, and this is for the DLC, No Step Back, and also, Low Resistance, you're actually able to assassinate Trotsky. Basically, one of your debuffs is the Trotskyist plot, minus 20% stability. That's really, really bad. Trotsky, at the time, from history, he was actually stationed in Mexico. It's just kind of where he was at this time. Basically, when you get down to this focus, you grab it. Like, I highly recommend doing this. You get an extra slot. you also build your intelligence agency. I think this is a decision for without DLC. I could be wrong. Maybe somebody can put that in the comments. And then essentially you put your spies here, and then you click on Assassinate Trotsky. There's 2 of them. One's a subtle one, which will be like almost a year to do. I recommend that one because it's basically a confirmed assassination. The other one is like a small percent, but it's a lot quicker. So it's either you tell someone to run in with a tomahawk or actually plan something. That's just me. Lastly, with this, there's also this focus, which I would recommend paying attention to. This one lowers the cost for a lot of economic laws. And I'll teach you a little tip here from my tips and tricks. Haha. Yes, very, very smart. Anyways, so this at the beginning is 150 political power. But if you grab that focus, minus 20%. So this will basically be about like 120. Even these other ones as well. Even the export. My recommendation is actually in the beginning of the game, until the war starts, I would actually be on free trade. Wouldn't this be bad for Russia? Actually, from my experiences, no. You have plenty of resources, and you don't have a big military factory-like economy yet. So losing the extra resources do not really matter as much. And the reason to do this is you get increased factory output, extra research speed, and you can read it right there. And the one that I pay attention to, construction speed, extra 5% from export. That will matter when you build up your economics. Like, it really, really matters. So what you can basically do, this is what I like doing, is I rush this down, get to security administration, and I don't spend any political power until then. Then I grab, if I can, war economy, and if not, partial. And then I grab export focus, and you should, because you saved political power, you could possibly grab another thing here, and I would grab Captain of Industry. Gives you an extra 10% civilian factory construction speed. So you really got to stack those up. You got to really build up that economy, which I'll show you in just a moment, the economy section. So that is a really nice focus right here as well. Then, last but not least, and like I said, this will change when the game flows, you have these 2 sections here, Addressing Internal Affairs and the Comintern. Addressing Internal Affairs, simplification for this, just more buffs, and also, and forgive my pronunciation here, the Agitprop, I'm not too sure how to pronounce that, excuse me, and basically you'll get new decisions in your decision tab with a bunch of buffs you can click on throughout the game, like increased construction speed and just more buffs, even in the war, and you can grab this one to further increase the amount that you can grab, and also there's more options. And you'll see this when you do this, and trust me, this is not something you want to forget about. It's super helpful. And then also some extra stuff down here which you can read. Excuse me. Yeah, I would highly recommend just taking a minute, just reading a lot of this here. Knowledge is everything in this game. Then you have the Comintern. Very important when it comes to doing your affairs before Germany attacks you. If you've already played a few Soviet games and you're wondering how on earth how you conquer the Baltics now and the new updates, it's no longer part of Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. You can now just grab them whenever you want. Almost whenever you want. Basically, it's this focus right here, Baltic security. This begins the route down to then claims in Baltic that you are able to annex Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. And when you do this focus, decisions will pop up over here somewhere. And it's going to cost you 75 political power per annexation. And then you're able to annex them. It's actually really, really nice. But the only problem here, why I hesitated a second ago, is you're only allowed to do this when your paranoia is gone. And that is for the purge. Stalin will have paranoia until you end the purge, which is down here. But I do recommend rushing this down after you finish your paranoia stuff, because then you're able to access this, you're able to annex the Baltics, you're also able to invade Finland, and last but not least, claim the Bessarabia. Romania and Finland, you won't have to click any decisions. Events will just pop up for that nation, basically saying, hey bro, give me that land, bro. And it's up to them if they want to give it to you or not. And besides that, there's just some like extra goodies here if you wanted to, but this is like, I would personally say like alternate, history, maybe, or just extra things if you wanted to do it. Like for instance, this is somewhat historical, but yeah, you could try to befriend or invade the Middle East. Then there's also Japan and stuff like that, whatever. Next, I'll be talking about a few affairs that will occur throughout the first part of the game. Like for instance, when it comes to Poland, and I just said I'd leave the focus tree, but one thing I forgot to say. Claims on Poland, you do not need to do. On historical, Germany will do this for you. Once Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact comes your way, when they invade and take over Poland, that land will be given to you by Germany. There will also be some research stuff as well that they will be some treaties they'll be sending you, and I would recommend accepting them because it really helps you out, especially for tanks. That's one major element to it. For tanks, you don't really start with the best technology for it. There's definitely some improvements here. I'm going to now flow in for research as well with this part. Very simplified version. I would highly recommend, of course, focusing like hard on your industry. I'd grab, this stuff here in construction. And it's really up to you on your industry here. I would probably do dispersed industry. I know it doesn't give you as much output, and as I said before, you need a lot of output, but you don't really know where you're going to be at later in the game, where you're going to need to like swap between factories and production lines, because efficiency is really important, and when you swap something, all that efficiency disappears. You might need this, and also, remember the bombings. Germany might bomb you, so. But anyways, back to the tanks. When the treaties come, and I do believe it comes about in 1937, it will give you a few research bonuses for the next vehicles. Now here's a little tip, I suppose, for newer players. We haven't researched, at least with the Soviet Union, we have not researched the 1934 heavy tank. Although you do start one, I think. Let's see here. Yes, we do. But we don't actually have the technology. It's just, I guess, part of the flow of the game. I have no idea. Anyways, I would grab this before that treaty comes. And I would say about 37. I'd probably do this within 1936. And then, instead of a 100% research bonus to go to something that we should already have, which is in 1934, it will be put on the 1940 heavy. So instead of us having to wait for that period, we might actually be able to rush that down. So if you grab this before the treaty comes, you might actually be able to get the 1940 heavy even sooner. And that's just an example for heavy tank if you didn't want that. Same thing could be said for the medium tank as well. You can grab that one. I mean, even light tanks. I mean, it just really depends on how you want to play. Anyways, quick and simplified. Same thing with the focus. If you wanted to grab the air bonus here, you see here, you could always go for that in the beginning of the game. Your Airforce is not really the best because when you look at the production here, the plane is not the greatest. If you're curious about how Airforces work, I'd recommend another video for that. I won't go too much into detail, but basically this is not a good template to start out with, and you need to get this changed as soon as possible because you might be fighting the Germans in Spain, and they're going to have very good planes. If this is a player, yeah, you're going to need to work on your planes. If you care about planes, you could always go for, and like I said, it's up to you. You could always grab this one, gives you air XP in the beginning of the game. Basically what you do with this one is grab engine 2. I would personally put on a cannon, light machine gun. It's a decent starter, a lot better than what you originally have, and you could put that into production. And very much so, you could grab, the extra technologies, and this one's also pretty good. It gives you self-sealing fuel tanks, and to be honest, that's very helpful to put on your planes. Anyways, ships. What is a boat? What is a boat, comrade? We're not going to be looking at that. Artillery. I mean, I highly recommend going down this. I mean, just as any other nation, you need AT. I would highly recommend getting at least 1940 AT before the war starts, because if, let's just say it's a player and they have heavy tanks. I don't know if you know how this works, but I'm just going to say it anyways. So, how piercing works, this specific stat. You might have seen in previous battles where if a tank's in a battle, there'll be a stat. Well, in the battle is, can the enemy pen it? Basically what that means, and I can't really show the stat because I don't have a battle, but if a tank division cannot be penned by the enemy division, I believe it is that they will take 50% less damage and be able to output more damage. It might even be 50%. I could be wrong with that. If anybody knows it and I said something wrong, please correct me in the comments. but I do believe it's that. They take less, and they are able to output more. That is a huge no-no, especially as Russia, because if they're all about, like, blobbing units, if there's a heavy tank, and it's a rather good one, and they have CAS and everything, your troops are just going to start dying in mass numbers. They're going to break you, they're going to encircle you. So one way to help deter that would be going for AT, and at least helping at least a little bit with that. Also AA, because of enemy CAS and stuff like that, they will tear you to shreds, boy. I'm telling you right now, they will tear you to shreds if that's a player. So I would highly recommend going down this as well. A little NC tip here as well is when you click on the stats here, it's rather nice, especially like AT3. You can see the piercing here, piercing, and the heart attack. Basically, piercing is what it's able to pierce. That's the highest amount, and then there's a heart attack of how much it can do damage-wise after it is able to pierce. I think that's how it works. So here's the thing. Guess what? AA also has piercing. So you could potentially also use AA as a form of AT. I wouldn't use it as its own, like by itself, but it'd be really nice as well alongside its AA capabilities. You put it in your divisions. Because if you take a look here, I know AT3 is quite a lot comparing to AT2, which is 90. But take a look at this. 88 piercing, 90. So AA3 is essentially equivalent to AT2. That can actually be pretty helpful. So if you just had like really good AT and AA combined in a division, that could be rather effective. And just remember, there's doctrines and stuff like that. So just because you have them does not mean you'll win, but it'll definitely help you. Then there's support companies. I'll make this straight and simple. I'll tell you the do's and don'ts. Engineer company, do, because, well, it's doable. Remember, you can do what you want here. There's only 5 support company slots you can put in a division, and probably 1, maybe even 3 of those will be taken up by equipment. Artillery, AT, stuff like that. So you're quite limited about what you can grab here. Engineer company's good. I'd recommend doing this, at least one of them, as one of your support companies. Helps you with entrenchment and stuff like that. The more upgrades you do, the better it is. Recon company, also very good, but that's up to you because there's others. MP, don't even worry about that. You have so much manpower as the Soviet Union, it's just, you don't have to worry about it. Maintenance company, this is actually a really helpful one. I personally use this, but this one, in my opinion, I would use only if you are confident in your defenses. And what I mean by that is because you might need to grab a different one. This one is just extra. Essentially what this one is equipment capture ratio. What this essentially means is, well, you can read it right there, percentage of the equipment that will be captured from enemy losses. So there's a chance you'll be able to take enemy equipment. Actually really nice. Like if you're fighting the Germans and you have maintenance company in your divisions, you'll actually be stealing their guns. And the more you go down, the more ratio you're able to get. So like up to 20%. Now here's the thing. It actually works on tanks too. So if you're fighting an enemy tank division, you could be stealing their tanks. Now it's not overpowered like you get like a billion tanks all of a sudden, but you will see them trickled in, especially when you encircle them or tank battles. I'm gonna be honest here. I've had many games where I've had tank divisions exclusively out of German tanks. Let's go with a different song here. Let's go with this one again. So you can actually make divisions out of enemy tanks. Like it's really, really good. Where am I going here? A little sloppy in this section. Sorry about that. So this could be really nice. You can capture tanks. It's really, really nice. Field hospital, don't even look at it. I personally like field hospital, but not as the Soviet Union. This just helps you keep manpower, and also you take less XP loss, because when you take casualties, you'll be losing XP as well, because you're funneling in new recruits. This could be helpful with that, but to be honest, no, it's just not worth your time. I would ignore that completely. Logistics company is very important. I would recommend doing logistics as one of yours, because supply. I don't know if you've looked at this chief, but it doesn't look too good. Because if you look in your construction, infrastructure, it's okay, but railways, no. It's level 1. You can get up to level 5, and this is level 1 for the Soviet Union. They have really, really bad infrastructure. Especially, they have marshland. And here's the thing. This can be your biggest allies, the Soviet Union. Yeah, both sides will be crying because their attrition's so bad sometimes. But marshland, if you decide to hold, like, the entire border, and you just want to fight all the way back, when the Germans reach the marshland, oh my gosh. This is winter, so the effects are different. But this is like 60% division attrition in like the summers and springs. I think. I could be wrong, but it's bad. It's really, really bad. So if there's like a rookie German player and he's fighting you, and if you kind of like bait his tanks in, or he wants to push right here and he doesn't realize marshland, oh my gosh, those tanks will be, I mean, those tanks will be gone, I'll tell you that. It's not going to be by your guns, it's just going to be attrition that's going to be killing them. So actually fighting in specific terrain as the Soviet Union can be very helpful. And it really just depends whether you want to build up your, excuse me, if you wanted to build up your infrastructure and make it really good, or if you want to use that to your advantage and really beef out logistics. I'd highly recommend that. And then last but not least, Signal Company. I'm not the greatest explaining initiative and breakthrough. I would look up a different video for that. But I would just stick this in your tanks. I mean, it's just plain and simple with that. Just put in your tanks. Trains, I mean, I don't know. You can do this if you want. To be honest, I don't actually use railway guns, but that's just because I'm kind of dumb because of that. These could be very helpful for you. It's basically free CAS. Like, you don't have to fight the German Air Force to keep this in a battle. This could be pretty nice to have. I don't personally use it, but it could be very effective for Russian players to use this. Now, last but not least, I mean, it's just simple. You just kind of play the game with this. I'm just showing focuses for this. I mean, infantry equipment. One thing a lot of people don't realize, these could be very helpful. Sure, you can bum rush AT and AA, but at the same time, it's like, this could actually be rather helpful. Because when you look at a division template, and this is like, if it is fully equipped, this is just this current technology that I have with, I think it's infantry equipment 1 I have, or 2. I don't even remember the names at this point, but this is what I currently have, if I had all the equipment in it with my current tech. Now, when you grab, I'm going to do some cheats here real quick. Research on icon, click. It's a little cheat there. Let's go here and then here. I'm going to turn it off. Oops. There we are. Now, I'm going to play the game just like a few hours, so it registers. Because now I have a new tech. It's now at 100. That is a very big difference. And also, infantry equipment, I'm sorry, infantry equipment does have heart attack as well. So it is rather effective to have better infantry equipment. But of course, it does cost you because of production costs. It can be very painful. So, well, there's that pretty much. Just do what you want with this, but I would recommend doing tanks and your industry. Next, we shall be looking at the factories, like in general, first civilian factory. This is a rather important part as well. I probably should have put this in the beginning of the video, but I believe that the national focus tree was rather extensive and should have put it in front. Anyways, factories. For how large the Soviet Union is and how big its army is, its factories, to be honest, is not really the most... and it's not really in the best position right now. And you really have to build this up throughout the game, because when Germany attacks you, they're essentially going to own all of Europe. I mean, they're probably going to have maybe like 150, maybe 200 military factories. They're going to have a huge industrial might. And because they have, you know, at the time, they'll most likely have France and everything conquered. Besides, you know, coastal garrisons, the entire might of the German army, Air Force, everything will be ramming right into you. And let's just say if it's a multiplayer game, and perhaps maybe even Italy, they won in the Africa War and they've taken over Egypt, they might be here as well. So yes, you may feel strong, or you may feel like you're not ready. Most likely you're not going to feel like you're going to be ready, but they're coming. Like they will come over and they will beat you up if you're not ready. So you really have to rival their economy. Now, how do you do that? Now, sure, we only have like 30 civilian factories, but basically here's the idea. You only build civilian factories until like 1939 or 1940. Like, when I mean only, I mean almost exclusively just civilian factories. Now, if you do want to slightly increase your production, because you don't really start with that much, I mean, only 32, You could trickle in a few military factories in the stream of new civilian factories, but you need to like not double down. I mean, you gotta haul ass and just spam out civilian factories. Basic idea here is you take a penny and double it 30 times. That's a saying. I mean, essentially, if you start it with 15 here and you build like 10 or something like that this year, you're going to have a lot more civilian factories for the next year, and you just keep doubling that industrial might every single year. And there's also ways to help improve that as well. But for this, essentially, I mean, just build in the 60 to 80 infrastructure areas. I would not build anywhere over here because this is like no zone, like no man's land when it comes to Germany. If they are successful and they break you, they might be up here. They might have controlled this. They might even be pushing to Stalingrad. You know, you don't want to be building everything down here because then they're just going to take it from you. And then they're going to be using it against you. So build everything like here, you know, like a little bit away. I would not do the 40% tiles if you were to. Just build up the infrastructure. There's no specific strategy when it comes to civilian factory placements. It's all up to you where you think would be best. I mean, really just like, you know, places here, somewhere in the back, maybe even in Siberia, and build up some infrastructure. If you'd ask me exactly what I normally do, this is a little bit more precise because I've played Soviet Union a lot. It's like muscle memory. I mean, I just kind of stack them all in the 80 zones, build up in the 60s, and I'll actually be building up infrastructure around, just so it'll all be 80 when I start building more. But it's up to you. I haven't really like done my testing what's faster in production, but don't feel afraid if you have to build infrastructure as well. Infrastructure is very helpful. I would build it if you really feel like you need it. Like this, for instance, you know, 40%. Also, another little fact for new players: the resources. If you build up on the infrastructure, you'll actually increase the amount of resources you'll be getting. So if I maximize this random little tile up here, I'll be getting that much more of chromium and aluminum instead of having to choke your economy by trading more. You could also just start building up, well, economy. This one's also really nice. Look at all the resources there. You could do stuff like that. That could be very, very helpful. But, you know, just essentially just build them up here, you know. You can strategize with that as well. It really just doesn't matter there. Railways, completely optional. If you want to use the horrendous supply system against the Germans, do it. It's just all up to how you build your army. And it takes time. It takes a few games to practice. Your first game, if you don't do well, remember, you're still learning. I would honestly, later on, once I built a lot of civilian factories, maybe in 1940, I would just beef some of the 1s up to 2s. So there's that. And also remember that you do have to keep an eye on Germany, because if it's a player Germany, my recommendation for civilian factories is 39. You can stop building at 39. If you feel cocky, you could go for 40 and then start beefing out military factories. But if you feel like they're going to rush you in like 1940, then maybe set back those plans a little bit more before. Or, do you see a lot of players do this? You could always just do civs and then military factories in the middle. You could do that. You could do that. I like just to focus just completely on civs. That's just what I do. So there's that. I mean, you can also do fuel, but just like I said, just civilian factories all the way. And then with the political tab back to here, you know, you got the economics. You know, go down here. Free trade, I'd recommend. Captain of Industry gives you extra construction speed. And then Popular Figurehead, which gives you extra 15% stability. That will actually help you build, if you see here. Stability is not the greatest right now, so we actually have debuffs. Then with the military factories. This area is like the most like do what you want area. Like I don't have a specific like recommendation here, but I'll show you how I typically build it up. I mean, like I said, this is completely up to you. I mean, if you like just want to spam on infantry equipment or build some tanks or planes, I mean, it's like you do you, my man. I mean, I just have fun. For meta gameplay and stuff like that, if you want to start with something, obviously, you know, have a good, well-rounded army when it comes to what you're building, like AA, AT. If you want planes, you can put in production. But I'll show you what I typically do. I'll put a lot of infantry equipment, you know, artillery. If I want to keep building light tanks, I'll keep it as is. Maybe add an extra one. Motorized. Here's one thing with motorized. I'll actually jump off of this for a second. Motorized is more important than you may think for new players, because really, just to begin with, Motorized is really just used for support companies and tank divisions. As you can see right here, you need trucks for each division. That's how much you need. So what you could always just do is just put it on one, and this is what I typically do. But actually, there is another way to help with your logistics. There's a button up here once you make an army. And I'll make an army right now. Right here, motorization priority. So what this does is, or shows right now, is how it gets its supplies. And I'll swap to the screen. These are our supply hubs. This is where supplies are coming from. The supplies flow from the railways, and then it's distributed from the supply zones. The brighter blue it is, the better it's going to be. For cavalry, there's only a certain region, distance it can go. But if you click that button, it will swap to motorized. And those trucks can go a lot farther into your land without supply zone. And you can even double it by clicking it again to further increase it. And you can make a full-on army, and then you can click on the field marshal, and you can click this button. You don't have to click it for each unit. Don't worry about that. So this will help you too. But because you have it on increased and it's on motorization priority, it's going to cost you a motorized. But for right now, I'm going to leave that on cavalry. Maybe when the war starts, I'll swap it and I'll build more motorized. But I'm just going to roll with this. Planes, I personally like building planes. There are some Soviet players where they're basically like, German Air Force is going to be too strong. What's the point of me building military factory, putting military factories, on the planes when they're all just going to die? And that is a good point, because the Germans are able to get really strong planes and just swarm you. But there is, like I said, if you do go down to focuses and you get to more research, you could just beef up on fighter 1s, and then already, like even 39, you're building fighter 2s. So you can keep a good steady flow of this. Also, the Spanish Civil War, you need new planes for that. So I typically like putting a lot. CAS at the time, right now, me personally, I just scrap it. I don't even bother with that. Then I will grab civilian train. I will grab AA, because I want AA. I don't want to get bombed as much. And which one was it? I am being dumb today. Well, I guess that was it. My bad. So then we have these here. Put them up here, and actually 2 factories. In every game for me, this will like shift around. This isn't like my actual setup like every single game. It can, I tweak it around. I might forget something one day or add something extra. I mean, it's just how the game goes. I mean, you do you. Fleets, my personal recommendation is just like I would manage your fleets. I would finish these. I would just put them to 1, so only 1 builds, and then the queue is gone. So I would finish these. And it's up to you where you want to deploy them. And real quick, here's another setup that I like doing here. So, 10 military factories, 3, 3, 1, 4, 2, 8. This is a nice setup here as well to get things going. But like I said, if you don't care about planes, scrap it. In the beginning of this video, I did kind of say I would make this a short video, but as every other tutorial goes, there's just so much to talk about. So I will make this section as short as I physically can. This will be military section. We're first going to start with military. How do I set up my nation? There's so many divisions here. You don't have to just click on all these and drag and put them in divisions. It's very simple. Top middle of your screen, you'll see this notification, the red one here. You hold Shift and you left click. Everything will be selected. Then you stick it into an army. Everything's here. Now you're going to filter it. Now I'm going to show you a very basic setup. Like if you just want one streamlined infantry unit with tanks. Some people will really like split it up and make a lot of fun out of it. But that just takes time. You build up your playstyle, whatever. So I'm going to double left click the tank unit. It'll select all the tanks. Stick that into another army. Scroll down. There's 1 motorized. Just letting you know. Put that in there as well. Next, mountaineers. If you care about mountaineers, although this is the only section for mountains, they do help with hills. If you want to keep the mountaineers, stick into another army. Go back. You'll see the NKVD. It has this little icon here. In the beginning of the game, until you do the center, you will not be allowed to delete or edit these units. So while it's still here, I can't click them, so we will be moving that out of the army. Now, this is all we got left. It's just a bunch of random infantry units and cavalry. I want one streamlined infantry unit. I'm going to click this button up here, change division template. Click this one. Everything will be swapped. Your guns might have a heart attack, but you'll build it up, trust me. So that's one streamlined infantry unit. Everything special that you either want or have to keep at this time in a different army. Now, I'm going to click this button to split. You have 48. Put it into a new army. Click again. Split again. Now you're at 24. Every general, you can only put 24 units. Now you have two 24s. I'm going to stick it into a field marshal. Grab the original stack. Split it again. Same process. Then right-click to add them to the field marshal. And then I guess the NKVD in there. I personally will change them to normal divisions when I'm allowed to. Congratulations, you now have the army set up. You can put the generals and then set them to their front lines, but that is a very simplistic way. Each general is the same infantry unit. It is this one on top. You just edit this one. Every infantry unit is going to be changed. I'm going to make another field marshal here with the tanks. And then the mountaineers. Let's just say if I want to keep them. So you're kind of are at a deficit with tanks in the beginning of the game, especially when you're in the Spanish Civil War. What you can as well do is you can also like delete two of these so more gets flowed over. But that's pretty much it for the army. Besides logistics and other things, which remember you can add support equipment, and also remember the motorized button. You can click. Hey, look, trucks. Next, we shall begin with the Airforce. Once again, it's rather cluttered. Now, I do it in a very unorthodox manner. I just grew up doing this with this game, so I'm going to show you how I personally do it. So top right, just below the time, you'll see a plane. You click that. Then, on the overview here, you hold Shift, and you start left-clicking all the way down. You hold Shift, and you click all of them. If you misclick Shift and you let go, just X out the tab, and then just come back here and redo it. But just you select all of them. They'll be faded out like this, and then you let go Shift. Then everything will be shown to you. I'm going to need you to click this Disband Air Wings. It's not going to delete the planes. It's just going to be put them back. It's going to put them back into the stockpile. These Air Wings, I'm going to be honest, just do it yourself. So disband them. It's going to be put back into your reserves. Now, a little extra tip here. I mean, first of all, you just make your Air Force however you want now, but this is what I personally do. If you're fighting a German player and you want to tell them to get good as much as possible, if you want to really bring the fight to them, the first place you're going to do it is in Spain. You're going to be able to send some divisions, and with the, I don't know why it's a DLC, but with one of the DLCs, and I forgot which one, I think it's Low Resistance, you will be able to send air wings as well. And from my knowledge, it will be 2 for the Soviets, and with the new update, it's actually very convenient. You just kind of click on them, and it instantly makes 100 air wings. Another reason why I told you to delete them is this. So, the Germans are going to have good planes, and that's a good German player. That player is going to really deck out those planes. They're going to train them, and they're going to put their ace on them. And when you put both your planes up, you're going to clash, and you're going to get air XP like nuts. But one thing you might notice is one side is taking way more casualties than the other one. Most of the time, it will be the Soviets. Excuse me. What you can do to help negate this, if you wanted to really bring the fight to them, you need a little bit of XP. You could go for this one for air experience to update your planes. But basically, I want you to only have 2 fighter air wings. These 2 here, alright? You could also just click the biplanes. What the game does is the newest planes you have will be filtered and replace the older planes in the air wing. So, for example, if I only had 1 air wing and I'm making 1 plane a day, every day 1 biplane will be pulled out and replaced. But if I had multiple, every day it's going to choose one. So like the first day, second day, then third day. So newer equipment's going to filter in less because it's just 1 air wing, because there's more it has to handle. So instead of having 10 air wings in Moscow and 2 over here, you actually start out with a lot more biplanes than good planes at the, with fighter ones. So I only want you to have 2 air wings to start out with. So all the new planes will be filtered solely into the air wings that are going to be fighting the Germans. And then, when they're deployed, I want you to come up here and train them. I'm going to need you to hold shift and then left click. And basically what that does is it trains it. But you'll see a mute button here. Basically, if you we can read it here. So pilot exercises will be automatically stopped once air wing reaches the maximum training experience. Basically what this is saying is once it reaches the maximum level it can by training, it will automatically stop training. Previous updates before this was added, you'd have to come back and click off of it, because what can happen in training is casualties can occur. Some pilots might make a mistake and they crash and the plane's gone, they die. That would be a big rip, or like, like you forget about it, and like a few months later, you're like, oh, bruh, how many planes did I lose? And you can lose quite a lot. But this just allows you to, it stops. Especially with the Soviets, it's very important. Soviet Air Force, you actually take mega debuffs for actually training, but we're gonna grind through those debuffs. So I want you to train them. And you have 2 air wings. Lastly, if you want to deal with the Germans, this is actually like more for like meta stuff. In my opinion, like this is what I do with that XP if you decide to, or if you just wait for the actual conflict, then you get XP. Then you need to go to your plane, the actual airframe. As I showed before, upgrade the engine. I would stick a cannon on. This is what I do. And then light machine gun. And you're able to do this. It's 7 XP when you can. And then put that in your production line. And trust me, like if you're able to master what I'm telling you with this, it'll help you quite a lot. If you want to really overkill, and of course you might still not win if it's a player, but there is a tech here in the air tab, survivability studies. What this does, it gives you self-sealing fuel tanks. This gives you more defense for your planes. Now it does cost you extra rubber, but as Russia, I wouldn't really worry about that. You should be fine. It is more expensive to produce these planes, but you will see a lot less casualties. And you might see this with German players. They'll basically do the same template, but they'll have self-sealing fuel tanks. And for fighter 2s, they'll also add armor plates. So that's a very useful tech to grab. Next, then there is the Navy. I know we're still going. But just remember, when you're setting up your nation, it's going to be muscle memory. So the more you do it, the quicker you're going to get. In the stuff that I'm showing you, it's muscle memory. I mean, I've done this so many times. I mean, you just do it all in like less than 5 minutes. I mean, maybe 2 minutes. I mean, in multiplayer games, typically they'll be like, hey, you guys got a couple minutes? Set your stuff up and we'll get rolling. So you gotta you gotta get this done, basically. And I mean, it's okay if you forget things. This game is so complicated. I mean, it's just, you'll forget something. Even I do. I'll forget the most basic stuff every single game. And I'll look at it and I'll be like, oh, bruh. And then I have to figure out how to fix it. So basically with this, you're not really going to be doing much Navy stuff, but it's still good to set up your fleet stuff. First of all, remember your production lines. You can just kind of stack them up, with queues. You can also set their spawn. But basically, top right, same place as always. For me, I do an orthodox banner, but I like this. So first of all, you have a fleet in the Black Sea, one in Leningrad, and one over in the Pacific. I want you to merge these fleets like what you do with other nations, but this one's a little bit more, like an extra step to it, because Turkey, you can't actually bring your fleet through. Turkey does not allow you. Now, this is one thing I don't know. I hope somebody in the comments, well, somebody who's watching this that knows about this, is still watching, can tell me. Someone can write in the comments, how on earth do you bring the fleet through the actual sea here? I have played this so many times. Maybe I just do something wrong, but I do see the AI. They'll actually move their fleet through the strait here. I actually don't know that. But besides that, if you decide to leave the fleet in anyways, even if you do know, which to be honest, I always keep this in, even if I would know, you basically got to grab these. You can either just click them, or top right, you hold shift, click on the Ukraine fleets, let go. Click this button here, and I would recommend looking up a Navy tutorial if you cared enough for fleets. I mean, I gotta be honest, it is rather complicated, and even to this day, I mean, I know a lot about fleet in this game. It's just like, it's dumb sometimes. You'll play an entire game, and then you see your entire fleet die to something retarded. It just depends. But anyways, just click this button. Now that's together. You can put an admiral. I don't care. Just do something. just throw somebody on. And then for the rest, you just hold shift again, grab them all, let go, merge, and then if you really want to be extra precise, click select all, and then right click on Leningrad, and those fleets that we're gonna merge are gonna go to Leningrad, and then they're just kind of chilling there. They chilling. They be chilling, bro. So just, admiral. All right, congratulations. There's Navy. I guess when the war starts, you could always set them to patrol to contest the fleets here. But I mean, if you really want to like bring the fight to them, that's when you focus more on fleets. But most of the time, if you're just playing, you're not gonna care about fleets. But somebody in the comments once again, like if you play actual meta stuff, I don't know why you'd be in this video though, but like correct me please, like in the comments if you have a preferred manner or a decent strategy with your fleet, because to be honest, I mean, you're fighting on land here. I mean that's it. I mean, you just kind of have them to contest. Okay, it's all right, guys. We're just about done here. So one extra thing I was gonna show. This is a part of a DLC. I think it's actually base game. Officer Corps. I think. I don't know at this point, man. So many DLCs. So first, there's this section here. Can be really nice. I'd recommend down here for Airforce you do industry liaisons because it helps you with research speed. Some other goodies here as well. But there's also army stuff. I would just read it. I mean, I just look through here. I mean, I don't really have any recommendations here. Maybe this one, ideological loyalty, helps you with even more manpower. So you're sitting there with 10 million manpower and Germany's just crying because they don't have any manpower. But anyways, doctrines. I will show you some stuff for Russia. Follow this doctrine, Master Soul, for Russia. So you're going to be blobbing. Like, it's not like, yeah, let's just build artillery, guys. Yeah, let's do it. Or like Grand Battle Plan. Please don't do this. I don't know who's watching this, but if you do this, I will just somehow find out, and I will come over. This is not acceptable. I'm just kidding, by the way. I'm sorry, please. Anyways, Master Assault Doctrine. This is what you need to go down. It helps you with attrition, extra combat width, and if you don't know what combat width is, basically, in a battle, and I'll show you real quick. Actually, I guess I really can't show a battle. For each tile, there is an actual width of the battle. For this one in particular, there is 96 width available for troops to funnel in and fight. You can't actually have 100 divisions all fight and all of a sudden you win because there's 100 divisions in. It does not work like that. There's actual combat width where they have to funnel in to the battlefield. So it'll actually be reserved divisions behind just waiting to get in. That's another thing too. If you've ever had a battle where you have 10 divisions on a tile and all of a sudden they just all casually retreat and you're just like, what the hell? Freak out. It's most likely because in the battle, when troops were dying, there wasn't enough time for the reinforcements to get into the battle, because that's also another stat, reinforcement rate, which basically it's every hour there's a percentage where units that aren't in the battle that can join the battle will join. So they might just die too fast and they just don't have enough time, like bad RNG I suppose, and they won't be able to join, and all your units just retreat basically. So combat width, decreasing the combat width later on. And here's the width I'll show you right here. Combat width, this one starts with 18. If you get that, it'll probably go down to 15 or 16. So you could always pre-plan and make it even bigger, so when it goes back down, it's back to what it originally is. By the way, I'll show you a little template that I like to use. I still roll by 27 widths. This could be good as well. Just fat stack of infantry with artillery. You could add AT and stuff down here. This is a fun one. If you wanted to roll with something smaller, you could always roll with a 21 width. Or, and I think at the current moment, meta, quote-unquote, wise, which, to be honest, your first few games of Soviet Union, I would not do this. This is too expensive. This beast is we call it a 15-4. I think it's, yeah. So let's just say this is not going to be an easy pushover. It's rather effective. It's 42 width, so it's very, very good. But to be honest, I would just go for 27 width. But because of the combat width, just like playing that for the future, just so you don't have to remake your division and add more units and then they're untrained, I would roll with a 31 width. This is like what I do. Someone in the comments, if you think this is retarded, tell me. Scream it. Scream it. This is what I do. I do 31 width, so once the combat width happens, the upgrade, then it'll go down to 27 width. It goes about that range. That's what I do. Anyways, back to the Doctrine. That really helps. So there's two routes here. Mass mode, which is basically like, hey, you, keep blobbing on that tile. It's all about attrition and just mass assaulting. If you want something more extensive, it's like a lot more stuff, like tanks and stuff like that. Like just a longer tree, more advanced. Then you can go down deep battle. I mean, it's just kind of the name. You either mass mob and just blob and do mass hordes, or you basically do the same thing, but just with different buffs. So, of course, you just read them all. But that's pretty much it for that one. Navy, once again. What is Navy? Excuse me. And Air Doctrine. The simple thing for this, I believe, is like, so left side is like strategic bombers and escorts. Yeah, there you go. Battlefield support is all about CAS. And then operational integrity is for tactical bombers and I believe like fighter combat. I think that's how the meta goes. So I would probably recommend, I would recommend this side. But once again, it's all up to you. Especially since Russia does start with tactical bomber production lines, and also from how far the front lines can be, tactical bombers could be good to build. So overall, then the side would be beneficial no matter what, because it's helpful for that side too. Reason why doctrines are so important. That's another thing too. It's not just equipment. You do need to go down doctrines, because when you read these, they are very, very important. You will notice when you're fighting somebody that has better doctrines than you, like they've gone down more. It helps. It really does. I am dead serious with that. Even this one, my 10% supply consumption. It's nuts. So for this one, for instance, detection, blah, blah, blah. First one here, fire detection. It's more of an opportunity for fighters to get involved. Air superiority. I mean, that's just a lot more combat effectiveness, basically. Then you have this one, extra agility. Are you kidding me? Like, that's very important to get. And then just extra stuff like for bombing and stuff like that. But of course, other sides do have it. The middle section really is for CAS. Left side, there are some abilities like this one here. It also has it, agility. That's really nice. Alright, gamers, we have almost reached the end of this. Just want to thank you so much for staying with me here, whoever is still here. I made a little sandbox map here just to show some examples. So this isn't actually how 41 is going to look like, but there are some comparisons and some examples. First, we'll go to the templates. This is just basic stuff. Some stuff that I use, and these are not meta, so don't think these are like the divisions. I will look up some videos for that, but these are just some things that you can compare with mine, because these I've actually been rather successful with. One thing I'll also say before I click on this, I am rather an infantry-heavy Russia, and I do like expensive templates. So you're more than welcome to remove a few things here if you do not like them. Here's the first infantry division. So it says here it's 25 width, so you could always add an extra one if you feel like it to 27 width. But it's basically just a lot of infantry, one artillery, then the extra stuff here, AT, all that jazz, and maintenance company. This is what I prefer to use. But if I were you to start with, I would do logistics company. That'll help you with some of the attrition. But if you want more equipment, you can do maintenance company. AT design. It's a little tweaked, basically. I mean, you just add extra AT there. You could also, like I said, add some more. Or you can add one less. And because I had AT here now, I didn't have to put it on here. So now I have both of them, maintenance company and logistics. But just remember, you do have to get a lot more anti-tank. And it does lower some stats here as well, because you're replacing infantry unit. Now, the next one. This name here represents what it is. This is rather expensive, and it's dumb. I like using it, though, and it's been rather successful, and it aligns with some of the combat with recommendations. This is only if you're like really rich in your war, and you feel like you're cocky enough to actually get this done. And I'll tell you right now, it can be worth it if the tide is turning. I wouldn't necessarily say in the beginning of the game, but you could work for this. But I would probably just stick with a 27 width or 21 width. But this one is rather dumb. This is what I really actually like using. If you remember the combat with what I was telling you in the beginning, I put a few cheats into this just so I was actually able to rush down. This is just a sandbox map. This isn't actually what 41 is supposed to look like. I just wanted to make some examples here for you. But let's just say if you have all the doctrines, you know, and even the combat width here, or on the other side, then the width is going to be lowered. For any other nation, what it's going to look like, whoops, the division is going to look more like this. But with the combat width lowering, it's 34, which you can still do that. I mean, that's fine too. So you can have a rather thick one here. But if it was me doing 42 width, I would go all out. But just remember that when it comes to your production lines, it's very, very important to focus on what you actually need and what you don't need. Because, well, you might focus all into this and then you don't have enough economy for producing tanks. So I would recommend doing one of these designs and then putting the rest of your economy into tanks and stuff like that. I'll also show you my tank division template recommendation. Once again, you can tweak it, but the one I'm using actually is pretty good. So this is just like if you don't really use that much like any tank, or let alone if you don't want to put any tank or artillery, like the assault guns. If you solely want to use medium tanks, you could do this. It's 42 width. Remember, the stats will differ because these stats, sorry, English if I can speak it today, the stats actually depend on the kind of tanks you make. So you can ignore these stats to a certain extent, but you can kind of see like what I'm rolling with here. So it's pretty thick here, so then it actually supports stuff. If you can't afford this, just go down to 21 width or 27 or one of those widths down there. I would look up a YouTube tutorial for that. You could basically just half this and just use that one if you cannot afford this. But oh my goodness, a breakthrough. So I like a lot of armor. That's why it's pretty high armor there. And I'll show you some of the templates for me. Once again, I like rather expensive templates. So here's my T-34. A lot of armor. I really do like armor because if the enemy cannot pierce me, then, well, I'd be pretty good. Then why not build heavy tanks then, Elite? Well, I don't know. I don't know, bro. I like medium tanks, so that's what I do. So I just like making really thick medium tanks is what I like to do. And you can always make them cheaper if you really want to go like you want to do mass production. You can lower the turret to make it cheaper, make it smaller. You can remove, you know, make it riveted. You can also change this up as well. You can add a torsion bar or just leave it be. Do bogey suspension, even cheaper. You can really lower these. I mean, now it's half the cost. Like, you could double the amount just by doing this. And it's the same stats for guns and stuff like that, but it's lower stats for armor and breakthrough. I personally like these stats, but like literally, I mean, this is almost the same tank. It's just without the extra perks. So it's even cheaper. You could just mass produce this, and I mean, you'd be fine. You can even change this up if you wanted to, extra reliability. I mean, it's completely up to you. AT, I mean, it's anything really. I mean, you just really stack this up. I mean, you could do anything with this. This is just what I might do. So like extra cannons for extra attack, reliability, radio. It's very, very helpful. I would go down those secs. Just extra goodies here. I don't really care much about armor. So it's rather nice. What you can do as well, if you do decide to bum rush it, grab this technology. It'll add the high velocity cannon. This is like an actual like anti-tank gun, and you can really increase your anti-tank. You don't have to do like anti-tank, well, tanks. You can just straight up do normal medium tanks or heavy tanks, whatever you want to use. Especially against an AI, they're not really like tank heavy. So you could just basically do a basic medium tank. Alright, well, I just want to thank you all so much for watching this very, very short video. This is a first for me with these kind of videos. I really do love Hearts of Iron 4. Kind of moved from Xbox to PC. That's why I haven't really been posting much. Most of my videos before were all Xbox stuff and little fun clips. Just decided to come back, do some fun content for a little bit, and see where it goes. So if you guys would like to see more, please leave in the comment section below, and I'll see you then.